नमो नमः। जाड्यं धियो हरति सिञ्चति वाचि सत्यं मनोन्नतिं दिशति पापमपाकरोति चेतः प्रसादयति दिक्षु तनोति कीर्तिं सत्सङ्गतिः कथय किं न करोति पुंसाम्. So the central idea of the Subhashitam is revealed in the last line. Satsangatihi kathaya kim na karoti pumsam. Tell me, what is it that good company cannot give us? It removes the mind's dullness. It sprinkles truth in speech. It increases our dignity. It drives away evil. It purifies the intellect. It spreads fame everywhere. Tell me, what does good company not provide to men? So, speaking of good company, the sages Sukesha, Gargya, Kabandhi, Bhargava, they are in the pursuit of supreme knowledge of Brahman. They decide to approach and be in the company of sage Pippalada. So, they come to the hermitage of sage Pippalada. But before we go into that, a small backstory about the sage's birth. Once Indra had to face the terrible Vrittasura. So he sought counsel from Vishnu. Vishnu told him that he must fashion a new weapon with the help of which he can slay Vrittasura. So he says, approach sage Dadichi and request him to give up his body, and with his bones fashion the thunderbolt or the Vajra. So that's going to become your signature weapon, O Indra. Do that, and with the help of your thunderbolt, the Vajra, you will be able to slay the Asura. So Indra approaches sage Dadichi, and sage Dadichi gladly agrees to give away his body, and using his bones, the thunderbolt is fashioned. Now, in all of this, the sage's wife, sage Dadichi's wife, at that time, she was pregnant and she was going to have a baby. So the sage forgot to tell her about this, and he just left without telling her. So when the wife comes to know about this, she is heartbroken and she wants to kill herself. So she rips herself open, and she takes the fetus and she deposits it under a peepal tree. And she tells her sister-in-law, the sage's sister, Dudimati, that she must care for the fetus, and she dies. So the sister-in-law takes care of the fetus, and the baby born is sage Pippalada. So that is the story behind the birth of sage Pippalada. So coming back to the other scholars who approach sage Pippalada, so they ask him, "O sage, we want to learn about Brahman, and we heard that you have answers to several questions that we have in our minds." Then the sage says, "I cannot answer them straight away. You will have to be with me. You will have to live with me for a year. Like all the other disciples, you also live with me, be in the company, soak in this ecosystem, in the company of these people, and then we will see." So these scholars, they themselves are great sages. Sage Kabandhi, Gargaya, Bhargava, and they are also sons of great sages. So, but in spite of all that, they live with the sage Pippalada in his ashram. They bring firewood. They do all the other work that other junior disciples were doing. And at the end of 1 year, they ask their questions. 6 fantastic questions, which forms the Prashnopanishad, like the 6 deadly arrows from a warrior's quiver. The first question was, where do all creatures come from? Now, we are not going to see the answers to these questions. We will reserve them for another day. The second question was, who are the gods that support life? The third question was, where does prana come and where does it eventually go? The fourth one goes like this: when a man sleeps and when he's awake, who is actually watching when the man is in a dream state, and who is actually watching when the man is awake? Then the fifth question was on what rewards will accrue to a person who meditates on the cosmic syllable Om. And the last and the final question, the sixth question, was, who is the person with the 16 parts? So these 6 questions were asked, discussed, and elaborated upon by these scholars in the august company of sage Pippalada. and at the end of which they had the answers to their questions and they could realize Brahman to the extent that they could. So, Satsangatihi kathaya kimna karoti pumsam. Satsangatihi did a lot of good for these sages. It helped them realize Brahman. As for us too, Satsangatihi will help us remove the mind's dullness, increase our dignity, drive away the evil. It'll help us achieve fame and name and truthfulness. So says the Subhashitam. Namo Namaha.